Don't forget about USC. The Trojans were a bit off the radar this past weekend with a 38-10 decision over Oregon State. And since that decision, Oregon State announcing that Gary Anderson will no longer be the head coach there, and the Beavers fall to 1-5. But we're talking USC football with Chris Swanson from Trojan Sports, and the Trojans now 5-1, of course, bouncing back from the loss at Washington State. I think that's the last time we talked, Chris. And just briefly going back 2 games to the Washington State game and the 30-27 loss. Neither one of us predicted that, but it seemed to basically play out as we discussed. A upset would in Washington State's favor.
It really did, and it was a close competitive game, which I think we both thought it would be. I think that it exposed USC for having issues that they've had all year. 5 of these 6 games have been close. Their offense isn't really doing everything it should. It seems like it's not moving efficiently. Sam Darnold seems like he's struggling a bit. The offensive line's having struggles. Everything was exposed. Washington State was able to take advantage and, came down to the end and they were up and they won. And USC was finally on the wrong end of one of these, close games that they've had really way too often for a team that was projected to be what they were projected to be.
So then USC comes home. They defeat Oregon State 38-10. The Beavers obviously overmatched and probably the worst team in the league. Don't know that we can take a whole lot from that game. I don't know if there's something that you can take away. I know that USC giving up just the 1 touchdown when it really didn't matter. Fourth quarter, game was decided. So they basically, in a sense, pitched a touchdownless game against Oregon State. Sam Darnold did have, aside from the interception, pretty glowing numbers. And I think the one takeaway I have from it is the distribution of the football, because Deontay Burnett has been the guy, but they got it to a number of receivers. I don't know if that was indicative of the score and the byproduct of the way the game was headed, or if they made a conscious effort to try to get the ball in the hands of a lot of people.
I think that the offense, they were throwing the ball a bunch. They threw it 23 times in the first half, and it seemed like that they were trying to do that, to try to get the offense and the passing game going, because it has been a struggle for them at times this year. Really what I took away from that game is that I thought USC didn't play very well. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes because, they beat Oregon State by 28 points, but that it was an 18-point game going into the fourth quarter against a team that, barely beat an FCS school in Portland State, and that was their only win. It's getting blown out by all these other teams that aren't very good. It just seemed like USC's offense, again, struggled. I thought the defense did play very well, like you pointed out. I thought, they really didn't give up much until garbage time. But USC turned the ball over way too much. They gave Oregon State an opportunity to really be in that game when it seemed like it was over early. They jumped out to a 14-0 lead and it seemed like they gave Oregon State a chance. So it's a game that, it was basically a bye. It was like a scrimmage and they won. So you don't take a lot away from that. They're, still have 1 loss. They're still in the thick of this championship race or whatever, but they didn't play well. And I think that that's a red flag.